Hi, my name is Brenda McGee, and this is Paranormal Encounters. Today I have a very special guest. Her name is Heidi. Heidi, thank you so much for being here.
Happy to be with you. So I'm an intuitive medium, and I've loved this, work as of late. Through a lot of my, childhood, it scared me incredibly. I knew things before they happened when I was young. I knew before my father died that something was wrong with him, and although my mom said he was going to be okay in the hospital, he had been in a motor vehicle accident in the fall of my 7th year. And I just knew something was going to happen to him. She said he was going to be fine. He was being hospitalized. Everything for him seemed, lifted, and he was going to be okay. My mom was quite concerned that I was, nervous about him. She knew how close I was to him and missed him while he was in the hospital. So he came to me and said, "I'm going to pass." And it was very upsetting because I just kind of felt like I knew, and why should I know? I felt almost naughty that I was understanding these things, and when I tried to, tell people, I just felt very uncomfortable, so I never told anybody.
Now, how old were you, Heidi?
I was 7.
7 years old.
So he passed shortly thereafter, and I felt him. I felt him in my bedroom when I would go to sleep in my grandmother's home. He would come and sit on the bed like he always used to when I said prayers with him. And I just felt him walking and trying to talk to me. But I was very frightened by this experience. I thought that he was going to take me to heaven with him. And it was just unfortunate, as a little girl, that, I tried to explain to my grandmother what was going on. And, she just said I was having a nightmare, but I knew differently.
Yeah. Now, was anyone in your family sensitive like that, or was it just...
Well, I came to find out later on in life, when I felt, comfortable speaking about it, that, my mother and my grandmother both had, a gift of understanding that spirit world, but it was something that we never really talked about. And I shut it down for many years until, my daughter was born. And different things, started to happen when she, came to me. So right before I got pregnant with her, I was doing a lot of yoga, and my third eye started to open through the yogic classes. And
so I'm just going to tell the audience, the third eye is the all-seeing eye right up here, your psychic abilities.
So I was in my yoga class, I had been there maybe 2 or 3 times, and the class was, all these crazy postures, and I was nervous, trying to balance on one foot, and I felt dehydrated. It was over 100 degrees, and I just felt dizzy, and I just felt like, okay, this is the wrong class for me. So I spoke to the instructor, and she had mentioned, well, just keep at it. And so I tried a few more classes. And then one day I started seeing colors in the mirror as I was trying to balance on one foot. And I was seeing this orange color in my abdomen. And I said, I really need a referral for a different, yoga instructor or a different class. And she said, "Oh, no, dear, you're just seeing your chakras." And not knowing what she meant by chakras, I felt quite stupid at that point in time. Wow. So I went looking, for books following that class, and it took me a couple of months because I was busy. I was just, I just got pregnant, with my daughter, and I walked into a bookstore. It was a metaphysical shop. I'd never been in a metaphysical shop before, and the metaphysical shop had, what everybody knows, that you would find,
right.
Crystals and cards and, beautiful candles. And a nice woman, came to the door with a present, and she said, "Here, this is a present for your baby. Here's, a pink," well, she didn't say a pink stone, but she handed me a pink stone that was a rose quartz crystal I found out later on. And she said, "Well, here's another one for your baby." And I thought that was so kind of her. Yeah. I was coming to buy something, and she really just, opened up her heart to me. And when my daughter was born, she had a heart defect. And so rose quartz, as many people know, can help with issues of the heart.
Right.
So this woman, in a sense, by being very, giving, she was quite intuitive. She knew what was going to happen before it even happened. So she was, an angel for me in a sense, because, it gave me courage when she needed the heart surgery.
Right.
Shortly after the diagnosis of the heart defect, I started seeing angels. I saw Archangel Michael.
Wow.
And I didn't know who he was. I didn't know people could see angels. So I thought I was going to go to the psychiatric ward shortly thereafter.
Isn't it sad that something beautiful like that, we think the opposite way, that, oh my goodness, people are going to think I'm crazy, when it's actually being blessed?
Yes, and he said she's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And that was 20 years ago. Now she's a healthy adult and thriving college student. So I just am very thankful for Archangel Michael. And after that, I allowed my gifts to flourish and open through IET, which is energy work, where you work with a person's energy field to help them, reveal their soul purpose, with regard to different, places in the energy field where the energy is blocked with pressure. Like, with what you do is you use With IET, what we do is we use gentle acupressure like contact, and we move the stuck energy through the energy field. And each center is, associated with a certain angel. And with my teachings, I teach people how to feel the energy, and I teach people how to know how to connect with their angels. I assist with, breath work, and my goal is to help empower people to be their own medium or their own intuitive. The experiences that I've had with angels and with deceased loved ones has been miraculous. In my mind, I just feel very blessed. It's something I don't talk about very often unless I'm asked to, and so thank you for having me today.
Oh, I'm so glad to. And I know that you do numerous things, holistic work, and, I call you a light worker and things like that. Mm-hmm. Can you explain some other things that you do besides, the IET?
Of course. Well, I also teach breath work and do a lot with communication of spirits on the land. I just feel happy to assist with these spirits that I come across. Sometimes I cross them over if it's highest and best for them. So I've learned, techniques to sort of allow them to find their way. The reason why I really started to do that was when my grandmother passed. She always was close to me, growing up. This is the woman I spoke of, when I went to her when I was 7, talking about my dad who had passed, and I was seeing him and feeling him. So when she passed, she came to me in a dream. And during the dream, we were flying, because I used to be a pilot when I was young.
Oh, wow.
I used to fly a single-engine airplane, a Cessna. So that was a lot of fun, and she loved to go with me, and it was always a lot of joy when we would get together and do those sorts of things together. We laughed and really had a good time. Going over to lunch, we'd take the plane and go over from the island over to the mainland.
Nice.
And go for lunch. I got my pilot's license before I got my driver's license.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
So anyway, in a dream, shortly after she passed, we go flying, the astral travel.
Right.
And then next thing I know, I see all these angels surrounding us, and she's like, "Oh, Heidi, look where we ended up. This is great. Where are we going to go next?" I says, "Well, Nana, it's time for you to stay for a bit and have a rest. I'll be right back before you know it. I have to go check on my kids. I'll be right back," knowing, it would be a while before,
Right.
I would be seeing her again in that world. She's been back to visit me since.
Right.
So she has been instrumental in, my crossing over of spirits, because it was so easy to help her cross. At the time, I didn't realize I was helping her cross.
Right.
I just thought that I felt fortunate to be with her when she crossed. I didn't realize I had helped her. And, perhaps 6 or 8 years after she had passed, I was down in New York City with my family. And we were at this restaurant with this big round table, and that was the only table in the house that was open for us. It was probably for 6 or 8 people, but there were only 4 of us. So all of a sudden, I said to my kids and my husband, "Oh, Nana and Papa are here." They were kind of used to me always seeing ghosts and whatnot, and they were, we needed room for them.
Right.
So they were in the booth with us. And I said, "Oh, wow, they're here. This is such a joyous thing." And I didn't understand why, because usually my grandfather wouldn't come as well. And the next day, we go to see Statue of Liberty, and we're, touring, and I just felt so happy to be, exploring and seeing, where everyone immigrates into our country. And the next stop was Ellis Island. So as we approached Ellis Island, I could feel this strange energy, to the left, where they were detained. And, my daughter looked at me and said, "You see something over there, don't you, Mom?" And I did, but I didn't really want to engage with that because I was with my family. It was a fun day out. Right. And so I just said a prayer. I said, "How can I help these people? My daughter, wants me to speak to them, and I don't want to make my daughter feel uncomfortable with these spirits, because that's what happened to me when I was young."
Right.
So I said a prayer that I'd be able to know how to interact properly with them. And my grandmother was there to help me all along.
That's amazing.
So during that opportunity, I was guided to just sort of imagine, that their angels were there with them, and I asked them to just look for family members and other loved ones that were there, possessions that they had, and just asked them to try to find their way.
Right.
So they started to cross. I could sense them, being calm. The energy started to relax a little bit. And they were just very upset that it was taking so long. They asked me, "Why is it taking so long?" They didn't realize they had passed.
Right.
And they were waiting so patiently to immigrate. They had been detained because they were probably, sick.
Right.
And, they couldn't let everyone immigrate that had different types of infection. Exactly. To protect the country. So unfortunately they died there in that detention center.
Wow.
So I went in to explore on Ellis Island with the kids and my husband. And on the way out, there were a few people that didn't cross, and they were kids. And I'm like, "Well, why didn't you go?" "Well, we're waiting for our parents." So there were other people that weren't ready to pass, despite, what I had said.
Right.
And I was very new to this, and I didn't know really what to say, but I knew that I asked for what was highest and best for them. And then, the kids crossed after I just, said to them, "Look, your parents, don't mind if you go." I spoke to them, right. and they'll follow. If you go, they'll follow. And sure enough, the kids went, and I haven't been back since.
That's amazing. Good for you.
So that led to me learning more about, crossing spirits, and just doing that in my spare time, if I felt there was a need. I just feel that a lot of people are communicating with spirits and they don't know that they are. Because as a kid, lots of things would happen, and I'd have a funny thought in my head that didn't feel like me.
Right.
And a judgment or a situation would come up, and I'd feel like a certain emotion that didn't feel like mine. And through the work, I've realized, a lot. I'm an empath. I can feel things,
right.
Whether it's a person that's living or a person that's passed on.
Right.
I can feel it in my body what they're feeling. And lots of times, when people are afraid of ghosts, what they're really feeling is the ghost fear. They're not feeling their fear. They're fearing the fear that the ghost has.
Right.
Perhaps,
that's a great concept. A lot of people don't see it that way. That is. Exactly, and some people don't know that they're empaths.
Right.
So that you're right. Some people do feel that, and they overreact a little bit because they're feeling what spirit's feeling.
And I still feel fear because I'm just so in contact, but learning that I don't have to be afraid. I mean, I have Michael, Archangel Michael, always with me. I'm protected. I know nothing will happen to me. But, you know, it's very important to stay out of fear, because the more you go into fear, then you attract other things that are fearful, right?
No, that is the truth. And I always tell people, I know it's hard, but like when I get calls or things like that, I'll say the first thing you need to do is, you know, try not to show any fear, you know, and just take your home back and things like that. So that's the first thing they do, is it's fear-based.
So, you know, what I've done to help with my fears and with my, you know, anxieties that I've, you know, had over the years because of pressure, you know, we are all burdened with stress at times because of, you know, deadlines and, you know, balancing, you know, family and work life and, you know, other interests and friends. What I've done, you know, for that is I've done a lot with yoga. Yoga helps me ground. You know, I got beyond the whole chakra thing and kept doing the yoga. It was okay. I ended up, you know, becoming a kids yoga teacher. I've done a lot with breath work. I'm certified in teaching breath work. So I know how to calm myself down. I know how to help others calm down. And, you know, I have, you know, times and sessions where I do intuitive work with people. And I'm really very much, you know, encouraged to empower people. So my intention is to help empower people in any way I intuitively feel. So I know when a person comes kind of what they need, but I need them to ask first.
Right.
Because some people aren't comfortable talking about angels, and some people aren't comfortable talking about spirits. So when I'm doing a session, you know, of either the Reiki IET or the breath work, you know, we don't have to necessarily call it, you know, an intuitive session. You know, whatever they ask me to do, that's what I focus on. But it always comes up in a roundabout way, you know, so I try to make people feel comfortable, empowered, and knowing that they can work through anything they're going through, whether it be stress, whether it be grief, whether it be they just want to feel good because they've just, you know, maybe exhausted themselves with, you know, stressful things during a holiday season or whatnot. So I do a lot with just, you know, stress relief and helping people find ways to empower themselves through affirmations, through, you know, breath work, meditation. So I really just go by my intuitive sense, what a person, you know, may or may not need from me. And many times, you know, people have asked me, you know, for a session, and I've been guided to tell them to see someone else because it's really, you know, my opportunity to help them through getting them to the right person.
Right.
So I rely on my intuitive sense, you know, for them.
That's amazing.
For what's best.
Yeah. So have you ever had any like negative spirits, you know, that had, because I know that a lot of us go through, you know, it's not always good. Sometimes we have these situations that happen and we're like, do we really want to do this? You know, has that ever happened to you?
Oh, of course it has. You know, when I just have a friend that passed away, unfortunately, a couple months ago, from, you know, breast cancer. And she also did this shamanism class with me to help, you know, learn how to clear the land. Because of, you know, that experience in New York City, I wanted to have greater skill. So I didn't find myself becoming exhausted from doing this work. So I needed to find ways to be more grounded in this approach to crossing spirits. Because I started to see a lot more of them after that, you know, opportunity to cross, you know, passed. So this woman, one of my neighbors, was at the class, and so she ended up doing a lot of similar work, but she never really talked about it. And I had the other spirit I crossed following this shamanic class was a Native American, because the Native American came during the crossing class, and my my teacher said, "Oh, you can do it," and here's, gave me some, tips on how to do it, and that the Native American is coming to you, and how can you help? I know you can help. You can meditate on it. Here are some tips on how to do it. Ground yourself. Use your mesa to help ground yourself in, the earth's energy. You have the angels with you, and you can, assist if you feel ready. So that spirit I crossed, and it was really quite easy to do. It was easier than I thought. It was kind of intense. It was kind of intense because he had a lot of anger. He had been in a lot of battles.
Yeah.
He wanted to be able to trust someone, and he was coming to me, and that put a lot of pressure on me. I felt a little bit stressed.
Right.
How could I help him? I was just new to this, and he was such a powerful, Native American. So anyway, long story short, I found out after she had passed, she was also working with a Native American. When I relayed a story of something that happened on my deck this summer, I was outside sitting, this was probably a few days after her passing. I was seated outside on my deck, waiting for my daughter to come out. We were going to have a dinner outside. It was comfortable, and it was quiet. It just happened to be my daughter and I. Everyone was out for the evening.
Nice.
And I heard, this spirit say to me, "Where is she?" And he was very rude.
Yeah.
He was nasty, and I could feel that he was very angry, and he felt, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know why he was there. And I just said, "Look, I don't know who you are, but you have to change your tone. This is not appropriate.
Right.
I will help you if I can, if you cooperate with me and treat me in a respectful manner." So he said, "Where is," I'm not going to say her name,
Right.
but "where is she?" I'm like, "Well, why? Why do you want to know?" "Well, she used to help me." And then I told him if he wanted her to help, that he was going to have to cross over, that he had passed on, and he wasn't aware that he had passed on. And she'd been helping him all that time, but apparently he wasn't ready to cross. So she was respecting his boundaries.
Right.
She was a very nice woman. And I said, "Well, I work differently. If you want me to help, you're going to have to cross and find her. I'm not going to," the way I work is if a spirit has something, to tell me, and they're being rude or being nasty or making me feel as though something could happen, it feels uncomfortable,
Right.
a negative spirit, then I say they have to talk to Archangel Michael, and he'll let me know, what they are saying. It feels safer that way to me.
Definitely.
So it ended up that he said, "Okay, I'll go find her." So we happened to have this huge dinner that night. We had like pasta, and we had pesto, and I made some homemade pesto. I was really excited. My daughter liked it, so we were stuffed. So we had to go for a walk, and maybe that's 20 minutes later, he came back to me, and he was so apologetic.
Wow.
Because he realized that he had to cross. He realized that contact, could be made if he crossed. He must have spoken to her,
Right.
because she must have sent him back to apologize.
How funny is that?
Yeah.
See, people don't realize that we have control. Well, I shouldn't say control, but you can talk to spirit and tell them, "Listen, this is what you need to do."
Yes.
And that's what I always tell people, like when you're crossing spirit or whatever. The first thing I say is, ask a family member to come forward.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So they
Right.
feel comfortable enough that you're not sending them somewhere
Right.
that they're afraid to go to, and that's what a lot of the issue is. They don't know, so many people are told this is what's going to happen if you don't do this. You're going to go down there, you're not going to go up there, so
Yes.
they're fear-based when they pass.
Of course.
So if you have a chance to be earthbound, that's what happens to a lot of spirits. They stay because they don't know what to go into, what they're going to go into.
Right, and you know how accidents happen a lot in certain areas, and in different types of situations with fires, and all kinds of different things happen at certain historical places.
Yes.
Over and over again.
Yes.
And sometimes there's a spirit that wants to come through to talk, and sometimes accidents happen, because of that.
Right.
So, always keep your, mind open to these opportunities. I tell people, If you wonder why something happened, go into meditation to find out who is trying to communicate with you. If it doesn't feel as though, it should have happened.
Right.
When there's something bizarre that happens,
That's true. Now, do you feel more connected when you do your shamanic work or, things like that? Do you feel that more spirit come through that when you're doing that type of work? Or is it doing...
Yes, I do. Well, I do it... Well, it happens when I do the shamanic work and when I'm doing energy work.
Right.
With people. Mm-hmm. And I ask for only the highest and best to come through.
Right.
So they're protected when I work with them because I ask the angels to, keep it, a safe environment for them so they can feel empowered and feel better instead of, nervous that they have to, work with Aunt Betty or someone else. Maybe they're not ready to go forward and to forgive if something happened with a relative that's passed. But really that relative needs to ask for forgiveness oftentimes. And so, they'll haunt the people.
Right.
And that's the last person they want to talk to.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, unfortunately, Heidi, we are running out of time. I am so thankful that you came here today. And anyone out there, if you have any paranormal questions or if you're having paranormal activity or if you'd like to get in touch with Heidi, you can email me at paranormalencounterstv9@gmail.com. And thanks for watching. Thanks, Heidi.
Thank you, Brenda.